Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is Andrew Hinkle, and I'll be moderating today's call. We do have Jena Sullivan, who is the Senior Executive Assistant to Thomas Fross, going to be hosting today's call, and she is going to review the 7 traits of a Platinum Assistant. To give you a little background, Jena's role over at Fross & Fross, as you probably all in a support role or as an advisor are aware, she is really the superwoman. She takes care of everything for Thomas, really directly interacts with the clients, and really helps to ensure that the client service level is upheld at Fross & Fross, and of course that Thomas's clients are well taken care of. So what she's going to do today is really go through how she structures her day and how she ensures success for herself and also for Thomas. So at this point, we will go ahead and turn it over to Jena.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. As he stated, we are going to take a little bit of time today and just go through some of the traits that Platinum Assistant would have. As he stated, I do work directly with Thomas and am responsible for making his day go smoothly, as well as making sure that the clients get the service that they deserve and that they expect from us. We're going to start by asking, why is it important to be a Platinum Assistant? The reason why that would be is because a Platinum Advisor and a Platinum Assistant equal Platinum clients. People think Platinum clients and they think that that means that they have to have a high net worth. And it's more about having clients that make your job easy, make it fun for you, and make you want to continue to come back to work every day. When we look at a great assistant can make an average advisor look good, it's being the front person in the office, the person that generally the clients will interact with first. It is really important to make sure that we are giving the best service that we possibly can. The example I like to use is you have a friend, they have this restaurant that they go to on a regular basis, and you've heard nothing but good things about the food that they serve. They've got the best steak and potato and everything is wonderful. You go to that restaurant because of this referral, and you get there and the hostess doesn't even greet you. They pretend like you're not there. The service is horrible, but the steak is really good. If you were to be asked how that experience was, more than likely you would say it was horrible. Even though the food was great, the service was just horrendous. So it's really important that a great assistant can make any advisor look good. On the contrary, a bad assistant can make a great advisor look bad. Just like in the example with the restaurant, if you have bad service, the food doesn't matter. So today we're going to take a look at the 2 roles that an assistant generally has. Again, the advisor is the first person that the assistant is responsible for making sure that everything is well, and then the client as well is the other person that we report to and that we're responsible to making sure their experience goes smoothly. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the advisor. We're going to talk about preparing your advisor, making sure that he is set up for success, that whatever he does is seamless to the clients. It looks like he is prepared every time the client walks in the door. So the first step we're going to take is prepare the advisor for every appointment. Now, there's a couple of different things that we do to ensure that he is prepared. The first thing is preparing or reviewing the dictated notes from the previous meeting, scanning those notes and looking for any things that were maybe supposed to be discussed in the next meeting, any items, any life events that maybe occurred from the last meeting. These are things that we want to make sure that the advisor is prepared and is aware of before he steps in that door so that he can make sure to mention it and give a more personal touch to his relationship with the client. We're also going to prepare a review agenda for each and every appointment. We're going to pull all of the client's files, make sure that they're all in good order, that he has all the information that he needs at his fingertips. The review agenda, in a moment, I will put up on the screen so that you can see it a little better than the snapshot you're looking at right now. But it's going to give him a lot of information that he will not have to dig through files or she will not have to dig through files to be able to give the client the full impact of a review. Client will walk out after seeing this. They will walk out of that office feeling like they were really, everything was discussed everything was covered and they're not feeling like we should have discussed something or should not have, or everything is right here at their fingertips. The client does walk out with a copy of this, and so you can see from the top, we gather details about how long they've been working with us. We make sure that if there's any lifestyle changes such as beneficiaries, goals and objectives, all of those things are discussed. You'll also notice at the bottom for clients that are over 70 and a half, we make sure that RMDs are discussed. So we do go through and we give them a very thorough list, and we discuss any items that they may have on here. Now there's also times where there's more detail that needs to be discussed, and so the advisor will generally use this as a place to be able to write those notes. He'll also use this, or she'll also use this when dictating their notes. This way they can make sure that every item is touched on in every copy talk or mobile assistant note, whatever they may be using. This way they can ensure that all of the detail that needs to be passed on to the assistant is there and available at their fingertips. We're also going to then ensure follow-through. All of those notes and all of those instructions that the advisor has given to the assistant won't do us any good if we don't ensure follow-through. So some of the things that we're going to do for the advisor is we're going to make sure that he follows through on all the tasks that he has. As most of us know, that could be a great number of tasks in any given day, so we're going to help in the best way we can to prioritize those tasks, be alert to what we can maybe assist and take off of their plate. So we're going to add any phone calls and tasks to the advisor's dashboard and to-do list. In our office, the advisors have two dashboards, if you will. We're using Redtail. We'll be switching over as of next month to Advisor's Assistant, but they will each have a dashboard as well as their regular calendar. And their dashboard is going to be set up to have all of those important tasks that need to be addressed and handled, but they're separate from the regular calendar so that we're not convoluting the information, so he can still see what appointments he has, or in Thomas's case, he can make sure that if there's any phone calls that need to be returned, that those are not mixed in with all of the other things. Every day you will meet with that advisor, and throughout the day you'll make sure that the priority items are addressed. We'll mark them off. We'll discuss what can maybe wait till later on in the afternoon or possibly the next day, and again also determine if there's something that the assistant can do to take that load off of the advisor. So here is a copy of what we were talking about a moment ago, which is the action items dashboard for Thomas. Obviously a small sample, but it does go over some of the items that maybe need to be discussed. It's a physical reminder for him that he has items to discuss with Rob, or he has some maybe compliance items that he needs to handle. These are all the things that we would put on here, including if we need to get back to a client with an answer to a question that we needed clarification for. All of those items go on the one dashboard and they are marked off as completed. We're also going to schedule time for organization. The day can get away very quickly. We can see that the advisor, if we don't plan carefully, can have a lot of appointments in one day and not many in the next day. So we've structured the calendar to allow for a certain number of appointments every day, as well as operations times in each day. Now my calendar happens to be pink and blue for the different types of availability or time slots that we have coded for him. So we're going to make sure that we schedule time for the advisor to return phone calls or handle hot items. On this calendar, those are going to be mostly blue items. We've scheduled them in as what we call operations times. In most cases, they're about a half-hour time slot that allows the rep to take care of those items, or he may have some other things that he needs to do, like prepare for the next appointment. It also gives a cushion of time in between appointments. On occasion, the appointment prior to that operations slot may have lasted longer than expected, and so now he does not have clients waiting in the waiting area. He can take a few moments, get himself reorganized, and then he can be prepared to take the next client back. So we add available slots to ensure that each client has sufficient time. Obviously, as I discussed a moment ago, that's not always the perfect situation. There are times where it does take longer than we expect, but again, that's why the operations time becomes important, so we're not back-to-back appointments and no time for being able to return phone calls or attend to any tasks that may be needing to handle. Operations times are also a great time if you have an assistant that has things that need to be, answered, trade instructions that need to be given. It allows them the time to do that and not be rushed. We're also going to be proactive. By this, we're going to try to do some things to avoid phone calls coming in and also make it appear that we are on top of everything that goes on for a client and their accounts. So we're going to proactively monitor client accounts. In our case, we use Pershing as a clearing firm. For those of you who use Pershing, I'm sure you've seen this items for attention screen. Every morning I come in, I check these items, and I know if there's any incoming account transfers maybe that are, not in good order. I also know if we have clients that have bonds that are being called, or if a client decided to move their assets someplace. I can see right here, and that'll give the advisor an opportunity to go ahead and make a phone call and touch base with the client. So we're going to try to review all of these every day and make it a priority, make sure that anything that needs to be addressed is addressed immediately. We're going to look at the mail as it is received every day. We're going to look to make sure that if there's any notifications regarding any changes to the way a client's account is allocated, maybe there's funds merging or they're no longer being offered, we're going to make sure that the advisor sees that immediately so that any action can be given direction, and they can call the client, let them know what's coming in the mail, and the client feels better when we call them than when they have to call us. We're also going to use other of our online notification systems. As we talked about items for attention, we also use some of the annuity company dashboards. If you have annuity business, a lot of times you can log in to their website, and there will be a little dashboard that tells you have so many accounts pending, or you have transfers that are pending, whatever the case may be. So we'll use that, again, to try to get in contact with the client before they get the notification or before time maybe gets by us. We're also going to contact the client and let them know that we received that, and if we have an answer for them, we will give that to them. If not, we'll let them know that it's been received and that we are getting with the advisor to make sure that he reviews it and that somebody will give them a call back. My experience is that when we do this, the clients feel like they don't have to worry as much, that we are aware of what's going on with their accounts, and so they're very comfortable with knowing that whatever Thomas may say after that is the right choice because he's, been ahead of it and knows what's going on and has done his research, and he's not caught off guard, doesn't have to call them back. He's already done the research and made the appropriate recommendation from there. As I stated earlier, the second person or persons that we are responsible for are the clients, and so we are going to talk a little bit about what we can do to make their experience a platinum experience. One thing we want them to do is to be able to tell their friends that they were treated like they were the only person in the building. So we're going to know our client. We're going to utilize our CRM tool to document different things, such as client preferences. When they walk in the door and the receptionist greets them, she's going to ask them, would you like coffee with cream and sugar and a Diet Coke? She knows that because the last time they were in, they noted that information in the CRM tool, and when they were preparing the calendar for the following day, we made a note that that was their preference of drink. Client does feel special. They can't believe that you remembered it. They don't realize how it happens, and so that's okay. We're also going to make sure to record any life events, and we're going to make sure that if they maybe recently there was a new grandbaby born and they went to visit, we're going to ask them about their trip. We're going to ask them more about their grandbaby, and again, it's a little bit more personal, and so they tend to feel more like family. This is an example of the way that Redtail allows you to track some of this information. So as you can see, the first example, we had a client who had a 30th wedding anniversary. So we actually invited them into the office and served them cake and champagne and had a little party right there in the office. And they told all their friends about that. And so we try to keep up on any of those major anniversaries in our office. That happens to be one of the things we like to celebrate. And we make sure that each person, we collect this information so that when they do have major life events, we can send them something personal. They know that we care because we took the time to ask and to know what it is that they like. The next question that I get frequently is, how do you know who your most important client is? And the answer to that is actually very simple, because your most important client is all of your clients. So your job is to make each client feel like they are the most important. How do we do that? First, if we're extremely busy, we never let the client see that. They understand that we run an office and that we service more than just them, but they should never feel that way. I had a client that called me because they wanted to buy a house, and they were afraid that if they did not do it in cash, that they would lose the opportunity, that somebody else would scoop it. And they called me at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and they realized that they were really putting the pressure on, and they asked if there was any way if I could have Thomas review the accounts and see what they could come up with in cash if they needed it. I told them I would be glad to assist them and that I would get back to them as quickly as possible. And within a few hours, I still had not had my answer, not a clear answer. So I contacted the client and I advised them that I was working on it, that I wasn't able to get everything together as quickly as possible, but that I knew how important it was to them, and I would absolutely have that information to them before they left the house for their meeting that afternoon. So the communication with the client was absolutely important. I made it possible, and that's what we need to do. We always need to make it possible. There's different ways to do that. Sometimes we're going to need to assist, have others assist us, or we're going to, set expectations for the client, which we will talk about again in a moment. We're also always going to use positive words. When they ask for something, it is my pleasure. I will absolutely be able to assist you with that. Certainly I would be glad to, or I'll be happy to. And most importantly, one of the things I learned in training other people is that you always have to smile when you're on the phone. They can always tell when you're not smiling, when you're not happy. And so if you say these words, they won't believe them. So it's always important, even when you're having the most difficult day, when you answer that phone, you always try to put the smile on. A moment ago, I talked about exceeding expectations. If you set the standard, then exceed it. They are thrilled. Generally, they think that that means that you went above and beyond, when in fact it may not have been that much more difficult than normal. So we're going to determine, set, and exceed expectations. We're going to ask the client, is this time sensitive? Such as the example I gave a few moments ago, I asked the client if they needed to have an answer by a particular time, and they did. They advised me of that time. When I knew I was getting close to that time and I wasn't going to make it, I had to make sure to let them know. So we're going to properly assess how long the task will take to complete and be upfront and let them know if it is realistic for us to get them the answer as quickly as they need it. By setting that expectation, then they know that it's possible that we will not have it completed and that their expectation is set and there's no disappointment. We will enlist assistance from others. We all have important things to do, and as a team, it is important that we communicate with each other. If somebody needs something immediately and it's extremely important to one of our clients, others will pitch in and do what we can, maybe take something else away that needs to be accomplished so that you can go ahead and finish what the client has requested for you. And we're going to communicate with the client, as we talked about. If we're unable to meet a deadline, the worst we can do is ignore the deadline, not contact the client. they're only going to get frustrated, and then they're going to call in and they're going to be extremely upset because you promised them a call back and they did not receive it when you told them they would. So again, we want to make sure we communicate with the client at all times. We are going to then now go over what we've talked about, and I know that I went very briefly on some of these topics. So at the end we will have some time for questions. But to summarize, we're going to prepare our advisor, and that means we're going to let him know the things that he needs to know before walking into an appointment with a client. Or if a client has called in, we're going to make sure that they're aware of all the details of the situation that may be occurring. Prepare him so that he can properly respond. We're going to also ensure follow-through, make sure that tasks for not only the advisor but yourself are completed, that they're followed up on, and that expectations are met. We're going to schedule time in for organization, make sure that everyone is running on time and that we don't have clients waiting because an appointment ran over. Also allows for time for the advisor and the assistant to get together so that we can handle any issues that may be outstanding. We're going to be proactive. We're going to go ahead and make sure that the clients are aware before they get a piece of mail. They're going to know what it is that's going on so that they're not confused when they get that piece of mail. And they also are aware that their advisor is on top of it and that he is reviewing it, and he will have a researched and knowledgeable recommendation when he comes back to them. We're going to know the client. Again, we're talking about making sure we know what their favorites are, making sure we know if somebody had knee surgery recently, or if they've had any other type of life-changing events or just things that made their day. We're going to know those things when they come in because they've told us, and we've made note of it. Our most important client, again, goes back to being all of our clients, and we're going to make sure that each one feels like they are the most important, regardless of what else may be going on. They're going to feel like they were the most important person that walked in the door that day. And we're going to exceed expectations by determining and setting and making sure that the client knows what the expectations are. We're going to do what we can to not only meet them but beat them. And this way the client is always confident that you'll be able to get what they need done.
All right. Well, thank you, Jena. I know that one of the most valuable parts of this call was really to kind of expose you to the way that Jena and the office sets up their day-to-day. So I also give you the opportunity to kind of get some information and questions answered directly. So if any of you do have questions, since we've got so many lines on the call, it'll probably be a little difficult to unmute your line. But if you'll note, you do have the ability to type in a question, either through the chat or the Q&A, and I think Jena would be happy to kind of read your question aloud and answer it.
Okay, so the first question I have is, how do you anticipate what mail your client might receive regarding their accounts? There are some circumstances where you can anticipate that mail is going to go to them. In some cases, we are notified by the company itself prior to them mailing out lists, client notifications. And so in that case, we would be able to anticipate what mail the client's going to get. It's not always the case. There's sometimes where the client does get communication that we do not. However, in that instance, we may look at the company that sent that out and go back to them and request that they send us a copy of whatever it is that they sent and any other clients that may be affected. So there is that rare occasion where the client calls us first and says, we received a piece of mail, what do we do with it, and we review it, but the next step from there is to contact the sponsor company and ask them for a copy of the letter as well as a list of other clients that may have received it, and from there we'll go ahead and contact those clients. The next question, is there a way for you to print out this presentation slideshow to put in her employee binder?
Yes, we'll certainly make sure If Heather, if you wouldn't mind, I see that you asked this question. If you wouldn't mind contacting the office later, we'll make sure that we have all your contact information, and we'll get the presentation over to you directly.
Okay, next question is that whether or not the presentation is available to be heard again by others who may be out on vacation. So yes, it is being recorded, and they will let us, Platinum will let you know when it is available for you to go in and download. Next question is why the switch to Advisor's Assistant from Redtail? The answer to that question is because mostly of the workflows that we use. Advisor's Assistant was able to assist us in making sure that the steps to our procedures would have a better flow. We've been using Redtail for a while, and we tried to use their workflows. We tried to use their checklists. From the assistant's perspective, it was very difficult. From the office manager's perspective, trying to track where everybody was in the pipeline, so to speak, was very difficult. It was not very friendly, user-friendly in that respect. So we started looking at other programs, and Advisor's Assistant seemed to be the one that allowed us to be able to build our own workflows and be able to trigger them off in necessary steps so that certain things would happen in a certain order, would allow us to not have anything fall through the cracks. I know that Redtail has since become Leapfrog, and they've made some improvements, but it's still not where we would like it to be as far as with the workflows and the checklists that we use on a regular basis. My next question is, when documenting client meetings, do you put notes directly into Redtail? The answer to that question is yes. We currently use Mobile Assistant. When the Mobile Assistant email is received, the assistant is going to review that. She's going to pick out a couple of things. If there's any follow-up activities that need to occur, if there's any notes about maybe a future meeting that needs to take place at a certain time, or if there's any major events that maybe are coming up. Once she's done that, she is going to copy and paste the details into the Redtail appointment. In some cases, the copy talk is longer, so we have to create a duplicate entry of the appointment, and then we continue the notes into that appointment. But yes, we do copy and paste it in. Okay, so the next question, give me just a moment. What recommendations would you make for a smaller but growing advisor as they look to add their first administrative staff member? Specifically, what personality traits, experience, or other characteristics would you see as most valuable? That's a difficult one for me to answer. I could say that in training other assistants, I know that personality-wise, they have to be able to keep that smile on. There's going to be difficult times, and so their personality, they really need to be open. They need to be able to take criticism. They need to be able to just be able to make, I'm not sure exactly which words I'm looking for there. It's hard to describe a personality trait. As far as experience, customer service experience obviously is a big deal because we're delivering an experience to the client. We want them to have a platinum experience. So people who have been in the customer service industry in one form or another generally know how to do that.
And Scott, I saw your question there. One thing we can also do is we have put together some pieces that are available through Platinum that are going to kind of outline some of the specific criteria that you might have. One I can think of right off the bat is the type that defines the type of employee you might want. So what I would recommend is get together with your advisor assistant here at Platinum and kind of share when, maybe your timeline on hiring this new person, and we certainly can make sure that we provide some information to help you. Everything from job descriptions to, again, kind of the criteria you might want to advertise for, as well as interview questions. We can really kind of provide you some pieces to help you right through the hiring process. So we'll make sure that we give you as much as possible to help you in that transition.
Okay, a couple of other questions. One of them I think we covered with the presentation. What CRM database do we recommend? Again, we've been using Redtail. We are moving to Advisor Assistant. We feel that Advisor Assistant will better suit our needs. I'm sure that Platinum would be able to assist you with getting into the detail of what it is that you need, and then be able to tell you which may work better for you. The next question is, are the workflows and client checklists from Advisor Assistant available if we join as well? And the answer to the workflows question is yes, those will be available. The checklist that we have will be incorporated into workflows. Part of the switch over to Advisor Assistant allows us to combine a lot of those things. So the workflows, we will create templates and they will be available. I don't have a time frame just yet as to when those will be available. We're almost to the point where we're done with the the run-through of them, where we took a client and actually ran through the entire process to make sure it was working and operating the way we wanted. There's a few things to be fixed, and then it shall be ready to go shortly.
Questions on the database. We still are going to continue supporting Redtail also. So those checklists that we've built into their database are still going to be there. If we do continue to develop any new pieces, we'll work with the staff at Redtail to make sure they're available. Or again, some of the hard copy materials kind of walk you through the step-by-step for data entry into Redtail. So again, specific questions on Redtail, CRMs, direct those to your Advisor Assistant, and we'll be able to help you with those.
Okay, a couple other questions I see. Can we get a copy of the appointment agenda? And so the answer to that question is yes. I know we had a printout when we did the boot camp, and we will get that printout again, and we will let you know. I believe that was from Bonnie, so we will make sure to get that to you or make it available. And I see another question that says, have we already updated all of our office systems to AA from Redtail? If not, when will they be done? I don't have an answer to whether or not, when exactly they will be done. I do know that they are a work in progress. As we are going through and doing the conversion, we are making changes to the procedures. We are updating them so that they would apply for Advisor's Assistant. I believe that they're going to make those available as they're completed, so as to not have to wait for them all to be done. Excuse me. Another question I see is Mobile Assistant the same as CopyTalk? Excuse me. It is. I'm not sure the differences exactly. I know that CopyTalk, if I remember correctly, when we used to use that, would only allow so much time, and so the advisor would find that they would get cut off and then have to redial in and continue their dictation, whereas Mobile Assistant is not, they don't have that issue. So I believe that was why we switched back at least a year ago from using CopyTalk to Mobile Assistant.
And in regards to Mobile Assistant, we do have an arrangement with them. So you know, if you're interested in learning more, you can actually check right there on the front page of the website. There's a resources tab. Click on that. It'll actually, down under outside tools, it'll take you to a page that shows the preferred vendors that Fross and Platinum have recommended. And currently, I believe we're offering, or Mobile Assistant is offering a 25% discount for those who are referred by Platinum. So again, check the website or follow up with your Advisor Assistant, and we'll be happy to get you more information on that.
Okay, so the next question I have is, can Platinum subscribers get access to the workflows and checklists from their own Advisor's Assistant account? I believe they have to be imported. Once we make them available, you would have to go out and import them into your Advisor's Assistant, and from there you could make your own changes, or you could go with it exactly the way it is.
And when we have everything finalized with Advisor Assistant, we are going to talk more in depth about that, and we'll bring you the Platinum members up to speed on that transition and what's available. But again, as Jena was kind of pointing out, they're finalizing everything, running through the end of their beta test to make sure that all the functionality is there. So we'll certainly keep you informed as that rollout comes.
And we have another question about whether or not the assistant takes care of scheduling as well. There are occasions where that does occur. Generally, our first and second appointments, the first time the client is going to come into the office, is handled by our office administrator. She's the one who would have been that primary contact person, and so she would schedule that initially. Once they become a client and we go through the process of transitioning them to our firm, we may have one of the assistants actually schedule the follow-up appointment. We have an initial review that occurs, a recommendations review. Those appointments are generally scheduled by the assistant because she is the one who's been following the process. So she's the one who best knows when things are going to be completed and that next appointment will be ready to be scheduled. I've seen a couple questions worded a couple of different ways. To clarify, we will be using both Redtail and Advisor's Assistant for a brief amount of time. Really, we'll be going live with Advisor's Assistant. That will be our primary database. However, we will have Redtail for an unknown amount of time just to confirm that all the information has transferred appropriately. Once we've made the full conversion, Redtail will no longer be the CRM tool that we use. Question about, do you celebrate birthdays for both spouses? We do capture that information. Our office tends to prefer to celebrate anniversaries. It's 2 for 1, if you will. Birthdays can sometimes be very numerous when you're talking about one for each, whereas they both may share the anniversary, so that makes it a little easier for us. On the next question is, on the review agenda, do you mail that to the client prior to the meeting in the case the client wants or needs to add items? We generally do not. Most of the time the advisor gives that to the client when they sit down. In our line, we see that if clients have something they want to discuss beforehand, they generally will contact one of the assistants and let us know, and then we will add it to the agenda to make sure that it's discussed when they do come in. When we have a client that maybe we have to do the review on the phone and they're not in the office, they don't typically get a copy of the agenda unless they request it, and then we will send them a copy so they have it to just remind themselves what they may have discussed last. Question about if we looked at Microsoft Dynamics, and if so, how did it measure up? Unfortunately, I do not have the answer to that question. That probably would have been more my office manager. She would have been the one who looked at all of the different programs before narrowing it down and then, getting feedback from the rest of us. I don't recall Microsoft Dynamics, but I don't know that she did not look at it. Certainly will find out from her, though. And I see a note about sending clients and spouses birthday cards but don't have a party for them. Again, we don't have a party for each anniversary. We try to pick the ones that maybe are reaching some milestones. Again, that cuts down on the number. Most of our clientele are retired, so they're hitting the 30, 40, 50. I think we had a 60 last month. In those cases, we try to make note of that and make something special. We can't always get them in the office, but we always try to at least acknowledge it and make it something special for them. Good question. Next one is, does the review agenda have to be approved by compliance? We did have a basic one, I believe, that was approved by compliance with giving the information. That's why it's on letterhead and it has disclosures in it. I don't know that they have to have everyone approved, but it does have to go in the correspondence file every month, and we do have to provide a copy of that to our home office. And next question, are you celebrating wedding anniversary or client anniversary date? Typically it's wedding anniversary. We do capture the client anniversary date, and so when they're in the office, we recently had one that had a milestone, and so Thomas made a point to make sure that he brought that client around to everyone, and we all congratulated them for being with us for that amount of time. Next question I have is, do you use a checklist for items an advisor should cover in the first meeting? And there is not a checklist for the first meeting. That is something that the advisors put together, and they know what they want to talk about. We have a client profile questionnaire, which I believe is on the website, that we send to the clients prior to the first meeting. That's a good starting point. Most of them fill it out completely. We have some that fill out maybe only basic information. But as the client and the advisor go through those items, they can determine, you know, what additional questions they may need to ask. One more question. I think this may be the last one that I see, unless somebody types a new one. But what can you recommend to a company that has multiple locations and multiple CRMs? What is the best way to personalize our interactions with the clients? That is a two-part question because the first half talks about the multiple locations and multiple CRMs. I would have to say that you would want a CRM that you could all share and not have multiple. And again, I'm not sure with Advisor's Assistant that you could do that. I think you could because they have server-based location, but Redtail is web-based, so everyone could log into that from anywhere. The best way to personalize our interactions, again, goes to making notes every time something happens and a client mentions it. We've become accustomed to being able to actually pick up little things in conversations. You know, they're going north because somebody is graduating, and to them that's a normal part of conversation, but we've gone ahead and made a note of it, and maybe we've done something special to just congratulate them or to share in their happiness. So there's different ways for us to personalize those interactions, but mostly we find in picking up things in our conversations, making note of it, and either doing a deliberate act of kindness for them or mentioning it the next time they're in the office, asking about it the next time that they call. Redtail as well as Advisor Assistant both give places that you can note that information so that when a client does call and you pull up their record, you have that information in front of you. You don't have to dig very far to try to find it, and you can, like I said, make mention of it when you have them on the phone. They're very surprised usually that you even remembered. I think that's all the questions we have at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like I really appreciate everyone. Again, part of the value of this was the ability for Jena to, field your questions and to try to get resolutions. And that was, again, our goal is to really be more than just a provider of marketing resources. We also, want to be a practice management resource for you. So if you do think of any questions that you might have after this call, or perhaps we didn't get a chance to get to your question, certainly do not hesitate to reach out to your assistant here at Platinum. Let us know, what we need to answer for you, and we will make sure that we get an answer. And, of course, if we need to get Jena's input or anyone at Fross & Fross's input, we'll be happy to do that. But at this time, I'd like to thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank Jena. It was a pleasure to have her. As I said, she's quite knowledgeable, really is a superwoman at keeping Tom Fross on his toes and his clients happy. So we're happy to have her today. But again, this will be recorded, so if you did miss a little part of this, or if you did want your staff to be able to watch the replay, we'll be sending that out shortly. But again, I appreciate you logging on. Thank you for working with Platinum, and we look forward to speaking with you in the future. Have a great day.